speaking of what the sources of the surprise over the results were, Salon.com has a great article out about how Gallup, the polling agency Gallup, who was incredibly off on just about every poll leading up to this election, is really upset at Nate Silver, who, of course, of 538.com had the aggregation of polls and accurately predicted all 50 state results. And this is so funny because they don't really specifically talk about Nate Silver, but they say, we have a reverse law of the commons with polls. It's not easy or cheap to conduct these polls. It's much easier, cheaper, and less risky to focus on aggregating and analyzing others' polls. Who's he talking about? Nate Silver. Organizations that traditionally go to the expense and effort to conduct individual polls could decide to put their efforts into aggregation and analyzing statistics of other people's polls and cut out their own polling. If many organizations make this seemingly rational decision, we would quickly be in a situation where there are fewer and fewer polls left to aggregate, which could lead, of course, to Nate Silver not having enough polls to aggregate. This is so funny, Natan, because it's a clear attack on Nate Silver. They just don't like the fact that they've been called out, along with Rasmussen, as just putting out wrong information.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's some sort of a defense mechanism, but I'm trying to think of a good analogy. Imagine that, like, I don't know, 2 university medical centers come out with different studies on different elements of a possible cancer cure,
right,
but it doesn't directly lead to a cure. And then some teenager in Ohio or Iowa comes up with a cure based on what they read from both of those studies. Would you then say, hey, you didn't put up any money for the studies. You didn't put your skin on the line here.
All you did was analyze our studies.
Cure. Exactly.
Exactly, yeah, no. And the other funny thing, too, is that this is really more about, there's going to be plenty of pollsters. There are going to be pollsters around because the campaigns need the data. So campaigns will, if Gallup goes away, campaigns will still fund pollsters, different issue organizations will fund pollsters, so on and so forth. But Gallup is just going to be out of business. That's the reality because of this terrible reputation that they're developing is just giving wrong information.
And somehow they think this attack is going to stop people from doing math for free.
That's the thing. Nate Silver didn't do anything that anybody couldn't have done, right?
Right.
He just averaged polls that were out there.
But Dave, you bring up a good point. Speaking of the internal pollsters, let's say we only have internal pollsters. The internal pollster, this Newhouse guy for the Romney campaign, was completely off.
Yeah.
So even the internal pollsters are going to have to be better.